Hello. Welcome to my Chilltopia. It is not just a place, it is a state of mind. Okay. So first off, it's Saturday. It's our time for a raid party. Our friend J-Mac is doing an 18-hour stream, so after we raid MP, he'll be raiding him, and he'll continue to be streaming. I believe he said he started at 8 a.m. So yeah, really cool. Busy day, man. I think the longest I've streamed was like 4 hours, three or 4 hours. I think 4 hours. Yeah, maybe it was 3. I don't know. Could have been 3.5. Could be 3:25. I don't know. All right, so first off, going to be reading more Sabriel. If you're unfamiliar with the book or with my connection to it, I said that I would continue to mention it at the beginning of every time I read this. It's also, if you go to my videos under the collections, I have a highlights for this book where I read it already, and at the very beginning of that is also a more in-depth explanation of what the book means. But for me, it was a book that came to me when I was 19 years ago, when I tried to take my life. I was 17 at the time, and I ended up in the St. Louis Children's Hospital in Missouri, and this woman was pushing around a cart that had a whole bunch of books on it, and out of all those books, this is the one I picked up, and it's not the exact same book, but it is the same book. And yeah, it kept me going, and I think it's important to let people know that when you're going through a tough time, just find one thing that you enjoy, one thing that you like, one thing that keeps you going, and do that. And when that gets wore out and is no longer enjoyable, find something else and just keep doing that. Never get to a point where life drags you down to a point where you need to even think about going down that route, because I've lost family members, I've lost friends that have taken their life, and it hurts. It hurts them. You can't just think of, of you. You got to think about everyone that will eventually miss you dearly. And I think it's hard to do at the time, but if you can manage to do that, if you can just find a book, a game, a show, a song, a band, just one thing that just keeps you going, and stick to that, and you'll be surprised that those are the things that you end up treasuring. It really does. I have video games that are the same way, that I look back at, like Final Fantasy X. I look back at and I just treasure them now, because it helps you through a tough time, and it becomes almost like a trophy. You hold it up with pride, knowing that this is the thing that got you by. So, and if it gets too bad, you can message me. We also have our friends that stream. You can message them, JMac. We have a Discord though. If anyone wants to join that, we have a place there that you can talk if you need to. So just let me know and I can, let you in. Before I get started with the book, though, I do want to go through my followers. Is there anyone here yet? No, just one viewer. Okay, so our followers. I want to thank our followers, our 34 followers. We're getting closer and closer to affiliate. So starting off, we got JMac 0284. So he's the one that I was saying is going to be streaming all day. If you want to go by and say hi to him and hang out, play some games. There's MP Boops Bucket. No one cares for real. We care. We care. Samus 419, Shoddy Pistol, Spoonie X0, Helt Reel, Funny Imps, they're our newest follower. Funny Imps, thank you. Unicorn Farts 2001. Thank you so much. You're the best. Yeah, me and her share the same necklace, so that's pretty awesome. Weenaj, Nikita Vamp, Yuri, New Sauce, Deckham, Charmchar, J-Dam, Double OG. It's my buddy. Thank you, Double OG. And everyone. Let's see. Turbo Z31, Lesby Friends, Castiel Kenobi, Samantha, Special 8, Aiden Ryder, Wormwort, Kriz 85, I don't know who that is. Ghost Wander, Angela 3000, Wesson St. Louis, GP Bear 4, I Am Roar, Kayoma Consponsurus, thank you, Jabberwocky, and Jesus Freak NE. Thank you so much to all of our followers. To my followers, I say our because it's just good knowing that I've made friends on here. So okay, so we did that. Did our followers. Recap of the chapter 7, the last chapter. Let's see, what was going on? Oh, let's see. So, Sabrio was being chased by a mordicant, and she was able to find her father's house which was in the middle of a river on an island. And if you look right here, I have a new picture. Let me check to see if you can even see it. Zoom in. And it's kind of funky to see. It's a little blurry, so here you go. Alright, so there is the island. Right here, right here is the waterfall, okay? And then right here, as you can see, let me zoom out, is the stepping stones. So, oops, right here, the stepping stones, and at the end of the last chapter, she crossed those stepping stones and collapsed right inside. She got through the gate, through the courtyard, and went straight to the house and collapsed. And where she was greeted by our, let me get this, by our newest character, Mogget, the talking cat. Cat? Yes, but is that really what it is? So, at the very end, it says here that the cat had a collar, red leather, with charter spells on it, the strongest, most enduring binding spell that Sabriel had ever seen or felt. And the bell attached to it was a miniature Sereneth. And if you don't know, you can check back on one of the other chapters on my highlights in my collections. I believe it was the last chapter, or chapter before. It could have been 5. I don't know. Anyway, if you've been keeping up, then you know what the bells do and what they, well, kind of do. We don't know exactly, but we're learning. And the cat was no cat, but a free magic creature of ancient power. Abhorrison, mewed the cat, its tiny pink tongue darting. About time you got here. Sabriel stared at it for a moment, gave a little sort of moan, and fell forward in a faint of exhaustion and dismay. And that's right where we left off. So, I didn't get a whole lot of time to practice this week, but I should have made more time. It's not that I didn't have the time, it's that I didn't make a whole lot of time to do it. But that's okay. Let me turn this a little bit. There we go. So let me do one more quick test. I'll turn this up and see how my voice is. So let me do one more quick test. I think that's fine. I have it much, much louder than I did before, and it's almost like I wish I could go back and reread it. I probably will again one day and update it or something. I don't know. Okay, so let's see. 5, 6, 7, 8. We are on chapter 8. Do we have anyone in the chat yet? No, we do not. No one is here. That's okay. I'm going to continue to read it anyway, because if I wait too long, I'll run out of time. And I only got to read one chapter last time, which I was not happy about. I wanted to do 2 chapters. I was busy. I was had something to do, and that's why I was an hour late streaming. There we go. That's pretty good, I think. I think. I don't know if we want to make this larger. We could. Yeah, like that. That's pretty good. Alright, let's get started. 6, 7, 8. Haha. Macaroni. Get it? Stuck a feather in his head. Chapter 8. Sabriel awoke. Oh, and before I... no one's here yet, but the lewd emotes can come out because these next few chapters might have a few lewd moments in it. Also, in between chapters, I will answer any questions. I need to get like my Streamlabs bot into my Discord so that I can have that into here, and it can let people know, like on a 10-minute interval, who like any questions will be answered. So, all right. Chapter 8. Sabriel awoke to a soft candlelight, the warmth of a feather bed, and silken sheets, delightfully smooth under heavy blankets. A fire burned briskly in a red brick fireplace, and wood panelled walls gleamed with the dark mystery of well-polished mahogany. A blue-papered ceiling with silver stars dusted across it faced her newly opened eyes. 2 windows confronted each other across the room, but they were shuttered, so Sabriel had no idea what time it was, no more than she had any remembrance of how she had got there. It was definitely Abhorson's house, but her memory was of fainting on the doorstep. Gingerly, for even her neck ached from her day and night of travel, fear, and flight, Sabriel lifted her head to look around, and once again met the green eyes of the cat that was not a cat. The creature was lying near her feet, at the end of the bed. What are you? Sabriel asked nervously, suddenly all too aware that she was naked under the soft sheets, a sensacious delight, but a defenseless one. Her eyes flickered to her sword belt and bell bandolier, carefully draped on a clothes horse near the door. I have a variety of names, replied the cat. It had a strange voice, half mew, half purr, with hissing on the vowels. You may call me a Mogget. As to what I am, I was once many things, but now I am only several. Primarily, I'm a servant of Abhorson, unless you would be kind enough to remove this collar. Sabriel gave an uneasy smile and shook her head firmly. Whatever Mogget was, that collar was the only thing that kept it as a servant of Abhorson, or anybody else. The charter marks on the collar were quite explicit about that. As far as Sabriel could tell, the binding spell was over 1,000 years old. It was quite possible that Mogget was some free magic spirit, as old as the wall, or even older. She wondered why her father hadn't mentioned it, and with a pang, wished that she had awoken to find her father here, in his house, both their troubles over. I thought not, said Mogget, combing a careless shrug with a limbering stretch. It, or he, for Sabriel felt the cat was definitely masculine, jumped to the parquet floor, and sauntered over to the fire. Sabriel watched, her trained eye noting that Mogget's shadow was not always that of a cat. A knock at the door interrupted her study of the cat, a sharp sound making Sabriel jump nervously, and the hair on the back of her neck frizzing to attention. It's only one of the servants, Mogget said in a patronizing tone. Charter sendings, and pretty low-grade ones at that. They always burn the milk. Sabriel ignored him and said, "Come in." Her voice shook, and realized her shaky nerves and weakness would be with her for a while. The door swung open silently, and a short, robed figure drifted in. It was similar to the upper gate warden, being cowled, and so without a visible face. But this one's habit was of light cream rather than black. It had a simple cotton underdress draped over one arm, a thick towel over the other, and its charter-woven hands held a long woolen surcoat and a pair of slippers. Without a word, it went to the end of the bed and put the garments on Sabriel's feet. Then it crossed to a porcelain basin that sat in a silver filigree stand. Above a tiled area of the floor to the left of the fire. There, it twisted a bronze wheel, and steaming hot water splashed and gurgled from a pipe in the wall, bringing with it the stench of something sulphurous and unpleasant. Sabriel wrinkled her nose. "Hot springs," commented Mogget. "You won't smell it after a while. Your father always said that having permanent hot water was worth bearing the smell. Or was that your grandfather who said that? Or great-great-aunt? Ah, memory." The servant stood immobile while the basin filled, then twisted the wheel to cut the flow as water slopped over the rim to the floor, close to Mogget, who leapt to his feet and padded away, keeping a cautious distance from the charter sending. Just like a real cat, Sabriel thought. Perhaps the imposing shape impressed behavior, too, over the years, or centuries. She liked cats. The school had a cat, a plump, marmalade feline, who went by the name of Biscuits. Sabriel thought about it, the way it slept on the windowsill on the prefect's room, and then found herself thinking about the school in general, and what her friends would be doing. Her eyelids drooped as she imagined an adequate class, and the mistress droning on about silver slatters. A sharp clang woke her with yet another start, sending further slabs of pain through tired muscles. The charter sending had tapped the bronze wheel with the poker from the fireplace. It was obviously impatient for Sabriel to have her wash. "Water's getting cold," explained Mogget, leaping up to the bed again. "And then be serving dinner in half an hour." "They?" asked Sabriel, sitting up and reaching forward to grab slippers and towel. Preparatory to sliding out of bed and into them. "Them," said Mogget, butting his head in the direction of the sending, who had stepped back from the basin and was now holding out a bar of soap. Sabriel shuffled over to the basin, the towel wrapped firmly around her, and gingerly touched the water. It was delightfully hot. But before she could do anything with it, the sending stepped forward, whisked the towel off of her, and upended the whole basin over her head. Sabriel shrieked, but, again, before she could do anything else, the sending had put back the basin, turned the wheel for more hot water, and was soaping her down, paying particular attention to her head, as if it wanted to get soap in Sabriel's eyes, or suspected an infestation of nits. "What are you doing?" Sabriel protested, as the strangely cold hands of the sending scrubbed her back, and then, quite without interest, at her breast and stomach. "Stop it! I'm quite old enough to wash myself, thank you." But Miss Prione's techniques for dealing with domestic servants didn't seem to work on domestic sendings. It kept scrubbing, occasionally tipping hot water over Sabriel. "How do I stop it?" she sputtered to Mogget, as still more water cascaded over her, and the sending started to scrub lower regions. "You can't," replied Mogget, who seemed quite amused by the spectacle. "This one's particularly recalcitrant." "What do you— Ow! Stop that! What do you mean, this one?" "There's lots about the place," said Mogget. "Every Abhorsen seems to have made their own, probably because they get like this one after a few 100 years. Privileged family retainers, who always think they know best. Practically human, in the worst way possible." The sending paused in its scrubbing just long enough to flick some water at Mogget, who jumped the wrong way and yowled as it hit him. Just before another great basin load of water hit Sabriel, she saw the cat shoot under the bed and tail dividing the bedspread. "That's enough, thank you," she proclaimed, as the last drench of water drained out through a grill in the tiled area. The sending had probably finished anyway, thought Sabriel, as it stopped washing and started to towel her dry. She snatched the towel back from it and tried to finish the job herself, but the sending counterattacked by combing her hair, causing another minor tussle. Eventually, between the two of them, Sabriel shrugged on the undercoat and surcoat and submitted to a manicure and vigorous hair-brushing. She was admiring the tiny, repeated silver key motif on the black surcoat in the mirror that backed one of the window shutters when a gong sounded somewhere else in the house, and the servant sending opened the door. A split second later, Mogget raced through with a cry that Sabriel thought was "Dinner!" She followed, rather more sedately, the sending, closing the door behind her. Dinner was in the main hall of the house, and a long stately room that took up half the ground floor and was dominated by the floor-to-ceiling stained glass window at the western end. The window showed a scene from the building of the wall, and, like many other things around the house, it was heavily laden with charter magic. Perhaps there was no real glass in it at all, Sabriel mused, as she watched the light of the evening sun play in and around the toiling figures that were building the wall. As with the sendings, if she looked closely enough, you could see tiny charter marks making up the patterns. It was hard to see through the window, but judging from the sun, it was almost dusk. Sabriel realized she must have slept for a full day, or possibly even 2. A table nearly as long as the hall stretched away from her, a brightly polished table of some light and lustrous timber, heavily laden with silver salt cellars, candelabra, and rather fantastic-looking decanters and covered dishes. But only 2 places were fully set, with a plethora of knives, forks, spoons, and other instruments, which Sabriel only recognized from obscure drawings in her etiquette textbook. She'd never seen a real golden straw for sucking the innards out of a pomegranate before, for example. One place was before a high-backed chair at the head of the table, and the other was to the left of this, in front of a cushioned stool. Sabriel wondered which was her, until Mogget jumped up on the stool and said, "Come on! They won't serve till you're seated." They were more sendings, 6 in all, including a cream-dressed tyrant of the bedroom. They were all basically the same, human in shape, but cowled and veiled. Only their hands were visible, and these were almost transparent, as if charter marks had been lightly etched on prosthetic hands carved from moonstone. The Sending stood grouped around a door, the kitchen door, for Sabriel saw fires beyond them and smelled the tang of cooking and stared at her. It was rather unnerving not to meet any eyes. "Yes, that's her," Mogget said cascadically. "Your new mistress. Now, let's have dinner." None of the Sendings moved, till Sabriel stepped forward. They stepped forward, too, and all dropped to one knee, or whatever supported them beneath their full-length robes. Each held out their pale right hand, charter marks running bright trails around their palms and fingers. Sabriel stared for a moment, but it was clear they offered their services or loyalty, and expected her to do something in return. She walked to them and gently pressed each upthrust hand in turn, feeling the charter spells that made them whole. Mogget, who spoken truly, for some of the spells were old, far older than Sabriel could guess. "I thank you," she said slowly, "on behalf of my father, and for the kindness you have shown me." This seemed to be appropriate, or enough to be going on with. The Sending stood, bowed, and went about their business. The one in the cream habit pulled out Sabriel's chair and placed her napkin as she sat. It was of crisp black linen, dusted with tiny silver keys, a miracle of needlework. Mogget, Sabriel noted, had a plain white napkin with evidence of old stains. "I've had to eat in the kitchen for the last 2 weeks, Mogget said sourly, as 2 Sendings approached from the kitchen, bearing plates that signaled their arrival with the tantalizing odor of spices and hot food. "I expect it was good for you," Sabriel replied brightly, taking a mouthful of wine. It was a fruity, dry, white wine, though Sabriel hadn't developed a palate to know whether it was good or merely indifferent. It was certainly drinkable. Her first major experiments with alcohol lay several years behind her, enshrined in memory as significant occasions shared with 2 of her closest friends. None of the 3 could ever drink brandy again, but Sabriel had started to enjoy wine with her meals. "Anyway, how did you know I was coming?" Sabriel asked. "I didn't know myself till Father sent his message." The cat didn't answer at once. His attention focused on the plate of fish the Sending had just put down. Small, almost circular fish, with the bright eyes and shiny scales of the freshly caught. Sabriel had them too, but hers were grilled with a tomato and garlic and basil sauce. "I have served 10 times as many of your forebears as you have years," Mogget replied at last. "And though my powers wane with the ebb of time, I always know when one horse falls and another takes its place." Sabriel swallowed her last mouthful, all taste gone, and put down her fork. She took a mouthful of wine to clear her throat, but it seemed to have become vinegar, making her cough. "What do you mean by fall? What did you know? What has happened to my father?" Mogget looked up at Sabriel, eyes half-lidded, meeting her gaze steadily, as no normal cat could. "He is dead, Sabriel. Even if he hasn't passed the final gate, he will walk in life no more. That is... No! Interrupted Sabriel. He can't be. He cannot be. He is a necromancer. He can't be dead. That is why he sent the sword and bells to you, as his aunt sent them to him in her time. Mogget continued, ignoring Sabriel's outburst. And he was not a necromancer. He was Abhorsen. I do not understand, Sabriel whispered. She couldn't face Mogget's eyes anymore. I don't know. I don't know enough about anything. The old kingdom, charter magic, even my own father. Why do you say his name as if it were a title? It is. He was a Abhorsen. Now you are. Sabriel digested this in silence, staring at the swirls of fish and sauce on her plate, silver scales and red tomato blurring into a pattern of swords and fire. The table blurred too, and the room beyond. She felt herself reaching for the border with death. But try as she might, she couldn't cross it. She sensed it, but there was no way to cross in either direction. Abhorsen's house was too well protected, but she did feel something at the border. Inimical things lurked there. Inimical things lurked there, waiting for her to cross. But there was also the faintest thread of something familiar, like the scent of a woman's perfume after she had left the room, or the waif of a particular pipe tobacco around a corner. Sabriel focused on it and threw herself once more at the barrier that separated her from death, only to be ricocheted back into life. As sharp claws pricked her arm, her eyes snapped open, blinking off flakes of frost to see Mogget, fur bristling, one paw ready to strike again. Fool! He hissed. You are the only one who can break the wards of this house, and they wait for you to do so. Sabriel stared at the angry cat, unseeing, biting back a sharp and proud retort, as she realized the truth in Mogget's words. There were dead spirits waiting, and probably the Mordicant who would cross as well, and she would have faced them alone and weaponless. I'm sorry, she muttered, bowing her head into two frosted hands. She hadn't felt this stupidly awful since she'd burned one of her headmistress's rose bushes with an uncontrolled charter spell, narrowly missing the school's ancient and most loved gardener. She had cried then, but she was older now, and she could keep the tears at bay. Father is not yet truly dead, she said, after a moment. I felt his presence. Though he is trapped beyond many gates, I could bring him back. You must not, said Sabriel firmly, and his voice now seemed to carry all the weight of centuries. You are Abhorsen, and must put the dead to rest. Your path is chosen. I can walk a different path, Sabriel replied firmly, raising her head. Mogget seemed about to protest again. Then he laughed, a sadistic laugh, and jumped back to the stool. Do as you will, he said. Why should I gainsay you? I am but a slave, bound by service. Why would I weep if Abhorsen falls to evil? It is your father who will curse you, and your mother too, and the dead who will be merry. I don't think he's dead, Sabriel said, bright blushes of a withheld emotion in her pallid cheeks, frost melting, trickling down around her face. His spirit felt alive. He is trapped in death, I think, but his body lives. Would I still be reviled if I brought him back then? No, said Sabriel calmly. No, said Mogget, calm again. But he has sent the sword, and bells, and you only wishing that he lives." "I feel it," Sabriel said simply, "and I must find out if my feeling is true." "Perhaps it is so, though strange," Mogget seemed to be musing to himself, his voice a soft half-purr. "I have grown dull. This collar strangles me, chokes my wits." "Help me, Mogget," Sabriel suddenly pleaded, reaching over to touch her hand to the cat's head, scratching under the collar. I need to know so much." Mogget purred under the scratching, but as Sabriel leaned close, she could hear the faint peal of the tiny Sereneth bell cut through the purr, and she was reminded that Mogget was no cat, but a free magic creature. For a moment, Sabriel wondered what Mogget's true shape was, and his true nature. "I am the servant of Abhorsen," Mogget said at last. "And you are Abhorsen, so I must help you. But you must promise that you will not raise your father if his body is dead. Truly, he would not wish it." "I cannot, but I will not act without much thought, and I will listen to you, if you are by me." "I guessed as much," Mogget said, twisting his head away from Sabriel's hand. "It is true that you are sadly ignorant. Or you would promise with a will. Your father would never have sent you beyond the wall." "Why did he?" asked Sabriel, her heart suddenly leaping with the question that had been with her all her school days. A question that always smiled away with one word: necessity. "He was afraid," replied Mogget, turning his attention back to the fish. "You were safer in Ancestia." "What was he afraid of?" "Eat your fish," replied Mogget, as two sendings appeared from the kitchen, bearing what obviously the next course. "We'll talk later, in the study." Okay, what's going on here? Something's going on. Just acting up. It's running slow. Why are you running slow? Hey, New Sauce. What's up, my friend? What is going on here? Why is this running slow? Bang, bang, boom. Work. What the hell just happened? Why am I... heard a raid was happening. Raid? When? What's going on with my... heard a raid was happening. Okay. Yeah, something going on here. Okay, that's a little bit better. Yes, more Sabriel. We just read chapter 8. Getting ready to start chapter 9. But I am, see, where are we at? Almost at 6? Oh, my lordy. Yeah. Yeah, so thank you, Help Rio. I don't know if you're still here, but thank you for saying hi. Yeah, I kind of made up a new rule. I want to get my Steam Lab thing linked with my Twitch so that it can pop up automatically every like 10 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever. Just basically saying that I'll take breaks in between chapters to talk and stuff. And that's right where I'm at right now, is in between a chapter. MP, what's up? Oh, speaking, since you're here, you sauce, since you're here, this gonna work? Would it be faster to do on my phone? Probably. Because it's not loading. Okay. You saw this. User actions. Mod. Yay! New sauce. Yeah, I need to get more mods because I'm a little concerned that I may have picked up some trolls that might drop by. I don't know. I was at Anna's stream a couple nights ago, and yeah, she got hit with a few trolls there, and I couldn't do anything. She didn't have me as a mod. She doesn't have a mod, so we got to go through that. Anyway, I'm not gonna waste too much time talking about it, but I think some of them might come fucking around with me. So, go to mod up. I even went through my Streamlabs settings and made sure I had. Why won't this go away now? Damn it, go away. Yes. Okay. Alright. Reopen. What is happening now? I'm refreshing my my chat here on the screen. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna just jump right into this because I don't want to waste too much time. Yeah, we got time. I can do this. I know these next two are decently short chapters. But yeah, the reason why I've decided to do like in between chapters to talk is because it makes it a whole lot easier when I go back to cut highlights. Now this thing is being stupid again. Okay, are you done? Welcome to the chat room. Thank you. I just got a message welcoming to my own chat. Okay, let's get into this. Chapter 9. Lanterns lit the study, old brass lanterns that burned with charter magic in place of oil, smokeless, silent, and eternal. They provided as good a light as the electric bulbs of Ancestier. Books lined the walls, following the curves of the tower around, save for where the stair rose from below, and the ladder climbed to the observatory above. A redwood table sat in the middle of the room, its legs scaled and beady-eyed, ornamental flames licking from the mouths of the dragon heads that gripped each corner of the tabletop. An inkwell, pens, paper, and a pair of bronze map dividers lay upon the table. Chairs of the same red wood surrounded it, their upholstery black with a variation on the silver key motif. The table was one of the few things Sabriel remembered from her childhood visits. Dragon desk, her father had called it, and she'd wrapped herself around one of those dragon legs, her head not even reaching the other side of the table. Sabriel ran her hand over the smooth, cold wood, feeling better both her memory of it and the current sensation. Then she sighed, pulled up a chair, and put down the 3 books she'd tucked under her arm. 2 she had put close to her, and the other she pushed to the center of the table. This 3rd book came from the single glassed-in cabinet among the bookshelves, and now lay like some quiescent predator, possibly asleep, possibly waiting to spring. Its binding was of a pale green leather, and charter marks burned on the silver clasp that held it closed. The Book of the Dead. The other 2 books were normal enough by comparison. Both were charter magic spell books, listing mark after mark and how they could be used. Sabriel didn't even recognize most of the marks after chapter 4 in the first book. There were 20 chapters in each volume. Doubtless, There were many other chapters that would be useful, Sabriel thought, but she still felt too tired and shaky to get more down. She planned to talk to Mogget, then study for about an hour or two before going back to bed. Even 4 or 5 waking hours seemed too much after her ordeal, and the loss of consciousness involved in sleep suddenly seemed very appealing. Mogget, as if he had heard Sabriel thinking of himself, appeared at the top of the steps and saucered over to sprawl on a well-upholstered footstand. "I see you found that book," he said, tail flickering backwards and forwards as he spoke. "Take care you do not read too much." "I've already read it all, anyway," Sabriel replied shortly. "Perhaps," remarked the cat, "but it isn't always the same book. Like me, it is several things, not one." Sabriel shrugged, as if to show that she knew all about the book, but that was just a bravado. The inner Sabriel was afraid of the Book of the Dead. She had worked her way through every chapter until under her father's direction, but her normally excellent memory held only selected pages of this tome. If it changed its contents as well, she suppressed a shiver and told herself that she knew all that was necessary. "My first step must be to find my father's body," she said, "which is where I need your help, Mogget." "I have no knowledge of where he met his end," Mogget stated, with finality. He yawned and started licking his paws. Sabriel frowned and found herself pulling in her lips a characteristic she had deplored in the unpopular history teacher at school, who often went thin-lipped in anger or exasperation. "Just tell me where you last saw him and what his plans were." "Why don't you read his diary?" Mogget suggested, in a momentary break from cleansing himself. "Where is it?" asked Sabriel, excited. A diary would be tremendously helpful. "He probably took it with him," replied Mogget. "I haven't seen it." "I thought you had to help me," Sabriel said, another frown wrinkling across her forehead, reinforcing the thin lips. "Please answer my question."
3 weeks ago,"
Mogget mumbled, mouth half muffled in the fur of his stomach, pink tongue alternating between words and cleansing.
"A messenger came from Belazar, begging for his help. Something dead. Something that could pass the wards. Was preying on them. Abhorsen, the previous Abhorsen, ma'am, suspected that there was more to it than that. Belazar being Belazar, but he went."
"Belazar. The name's familiar. It's a town?"
"A city. The capital. At least it was, when there was still a kingdom."
"Was?"
Mogget stopped washing and looked across, eyes narrowing to frowning slits. "What did they teach you in that school? There hasn't been a king or queen in 200 years. And why? Not even the regent for 20. That's why the kingdom sinks day by day into a darkness from which no one will rise."
"The charter," Sabriel began, but Mogget interrupted with a yowl of derision.
"The charter crumbles too," he mewed. "Without a ruler, charter stones broken, one by one with blood. one of the great charters twisted. What do you mean, one of the great charters? Sabriel interrupted in turn. She had never heard of such a thing. Not for the first time. She also wondered what she'd been taught in school, and why her father had kept so quiet about the state of the old kingdom. But Mogget was silent, as if the thing he'd had already said had stopped his mouth. For the moment, he seemed to be trying to form words, but nothing came from his small red mouth. Finally, he gave up. I cannot tell you. It's part of my binding curse. Suffice to say that the whole world's sliding into evil, and many are helping the slide. And the others resist it, said Sabriel, like my father, like me. It depends what you do, Mogget said, as if he doubted that someone was as patiently useless as Sabriel would make much difference. Not that I care. The sound of the trapdoor opening above their heads stopped the cat in mid-speech. Sabriel tensed, looking up to see what was coming down the ladder. Then started breathing again as she realized it was only another charter sending, its black habit flopping over the rungs of the ladder as it came down. This one, like the guards on the cliff corridor, but unlike the other house servants, had a silver key emblazed on its chest and back. It bowed to Sabriel and pointed up. With a feeling of foreboding, Sabriel knew that it wanted her to look at something from the observatory. Reluctantly, she pushed her chair back and went over to the ladder. A cold draft was blowing in through the open trapdoor, carrying with it the chill of ice and from further up the river. Sabriel shivered, and her hands touched the cold metal rungs. Emerging into the observatory, the chill passed, for the room was still lit by the last red light of the setting sun, giving an illusion of warmth that making Sabriel squint. She had no memory of this room. It was with the light that she saw that it was totally walled in glass, or something like it. The bare beams of the red-tiled roof rested on transparent walls, so cleverly morticated together that the roof was like a work of art, complete with the slight draft that reduced its imperfection. Complete with the slight draft that reduced its perfection to a more human level. The large telescope of gleaming glass and bronze dominated the observatory, standing triumphant on a tripod of dark wood and darker iron. A tall observer's stool stood next to it, and a lectern, a star chart still spilled across it. A thick, toe-wriggled, inviting carpet lay under all, a carpet that was also a map of the heavens, showing many different, colorful constellations and whirling planets, woven in thick, richly dyed wool. The sending, who had followed Sabriel, went to the south wall and pointed out towards the southern riverbank, its pallid, charter-drawn hand indicating the very spot where Sabriel had emerged after her underground flight from the Mordicant. Sabriel looked there, shielding her right eye from the west falling sun. Her gaze crossed the white tops of the river and was drawn to the ledge, despite an inner quailing about what she would see. As she feared, the mordicant was still there, but with what she had come to think of as her death sight, Sabriel sensed it was quiescent, temporary, just an unpleasant statue, a foreground to other, more actively shapes that bustled about it in some activity behind. Sabriel stared a little longer, then went to the telescope, narrowly avoiding Mogget, who had somehow appeared underfoot. Sabriel wondered how he got up the ladder, then dismissed the thought as she concentrated on what was happening outside. Unaided, hadn't been certain what the shapes around the mordicant were, but they sprang sharply at her through the telescope, drawn so close she felt she could somehow lean forward and snatch them away. They were men and women, living, breathing people. Each was shackled to a partner's leg by an iron chain, and then shuffled about in these pairs under the dominating presence of the mordicant. There were scores of them, coming out of the corridor, carrying heavily laden leather buckets or lengths of timber, taking them across the ledge and down to the steps of the river. Then they filed back up again, buckets empty, timbers left behind. Sabriel depressed the telescope a little and almost growled in exasperation and anger as she saw the scene by the river. More living slaves were hammering long boxes together from the timber, and these boxes were being filled with earth from the buckets. As each box was filled, it was pushed out to bridge the gap from the shore to stepping stone, and locked in place by slaves hammering iron spikes into the stone. This particular part of the operation was being directed by something that lurked well back from the river. Halfway up the steps, a man-shaped blob of blackest night, a moving silhouette, a necromancer's shadow hand, or some free-willed dead spirit that scorned the use of a body. As Sabriel watched, the last of the 4 boxes was thrust out to the first stepping stone, spiked in place, and then chained to the 3 adjacent fellows. One slave, fastening the chain, overbalanced and went headfirst into the waters, his shacklemate following a second later. Their screams, if any, were drowned by the roar of the waterfall as its waters took their bodies. A few seconds later, Sabriel felt their lives snuffed out. The other slaves at the river's edge stopped working for a moment, either shocked at the sudden loss or momentarily made more afraid of the river by their masters. But the shadow hand on the steps moved towards them, its legs like treacle pouring down the slope, lapping over each step it turned. It gestured for some of the nearer slaves to walk across the earth-filled boxes to the stepping stone. So they did. They did so, to cluster unhappily amid the spray. The shadow hand hesitated then, but the mordicant on the ledge above seemed to stir and rock forward a little, so the shadowy abomination gingerly trode on the boxes and walked across to the stepping stone, taking no scathe from the running water. Grave dirt, commented Moggett, who obviously didn't need a telescope. Carted up by the villagers from Querry and Robles-town. I wonder if they've got enough to cross all the stones. Grave dirt? Commented Sabriel bleakly, watching a fresh round of slaves arriving with buckets and more timber. I had forgotten it could negate the running water. I thought I would be safe here for a time. Well, you are, said Moggett. It'll take at least until tomorrow evening before the bridge is complete, particularly allowing for a couple of hours off around noon, when the dead will have to hide if it isn't overcast. But this shows planning, and that means a leader. Still, every Abhorsen has enemies. It may just be a petty necromancer with a better brain for strategy than most. I slew a dead thing at Cloven Crest, Sabriel said slowly, thinking aloud. It said it would have its revenge, and spoke of telling the servants of Carrigor. Do you know that name? I know it, spat Moggett, tail quivering straight out behind him. But I cannot speak of it, except to say that he is one of the greater dead, and your father's most terrible enemy. Do not say it lives again. I don't know, replied Sabriel, looking down at the cat, whose body seemed twisted as if it in turmoil between command and resistance. Why can't you tell me more? The binding? A perversion of the... Yes, Moggett croaked without effort, though his green eyes seemed to glow luminous and fiery with anger at his own feeble explanation. He could say no more. Coils within coils, remarked Sabriel thoughtfully. There seemed little doubt that some evil power was working against her. From the moment she'd crossed the wall, or even before that, if her father's disappearance was anything to go by. She looked back at the telescope again, and took some heart in the slowing of the work as the last light faded, though at the same time she felt a pang of sympathy for the poor people the dead had enslaved. Many would probably freeze to death or die of exhaustion, only to be brought back as dull-witted hands. Only those who went over the waterfall would escape that fate. Truly, the Old Kingdom was a terrible place, when even death did not mean to end to slavery and despair. Is there another way out? She asked, swiveling the telescope around 180 degrees to look at the northern bank. There were stepping stones going there, too, and another door high on the river bank. But there was also dark shapes clustering on the ledge by the door. 4 or 5 shadow hands, too many for Sabriel to fight through alone. It seems not, she answered herself grimly. What of defenses, then? Can the Sendings fight? The Sendings don't need to fight, replied Moggett, for there's another defense, though it is a rather constrictive one. And there's one other way out, though you probably won't like it. The Sending next to her nodded and pantomated at something with its arm that looked like a snake wriggling through grass. What's that? asked Sabriel. What's that?
asked Sabriel, fighting back an sudden urge to break into hysterical laughter. The defense or the way out? The defense, replied Mogget. The river itself. It can be invoked to rise almost to the height of the island walls, 4 times your own height, above the stepping stones. Nothing can pass such a flood, in or out, till it subsides, in a matter of weeks. And so how would I get out? Asked Sabriel. I can't wait weeks. One of your ancestors built a flying device. A paper wing, she called it. You can use that, launched out over the waterfall. Oh, said Sabriel in a little voice. If you do not wish to raise the river. If you do wish to raise the river, Mogget continued, as if he hadn't noticed Sabriel's sudden silence, then we must begin the ritual immediately. The flood comes from meltwater, and the mountains are many leagues upstream. If we call the waters now, the flood will be down on us by dusk tomorrow. Whew. We're getting there. One more chapter and we've got our 3 in for the day. For the week. So, let's take one more quick look at this. Okay, so, here's the horse, here's Abhorson's house. And then, right here at the very top is the tower. Okay, that's where she's looking out. Now, let's move this down some. Take another closer look here. Okay, now we can see the inside of the house. We see the study, we see the observatory, the trapdoor, and then where is armory? This north side of the buttery. Study, reading room, 4th floor. Okay, so there's the study. All right, so we know that is where they're getting ready to go. Is right there. There we go. Okay. So that's what's next. Let's see who's here. MP, my friend. What is going on? Is everyone still here? New sauce. MP left. Okay. New sauce is here, I think. All right. So, what do y'all think so far? Any questions? We still got 40 minutes to go. 43 minutes. MP's here. Yay! Oh, and right while I'm thinking about it, while I'm on this little break, I got a new book. It is the first official Stranger Things novel called Suspicious Minds. Suspicious minds. Suspicious minds. And we can feel our dreams. Alright, enough of that. So, did I put the book... Dummy. Put the thing on upside down. It's because I took the cover off before. Anyway, here's the person that wrote it. So, there we go. Yeah, it was on sale for $5. Oh, yeah, Breathe, Sunflower, Rainbow. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah. I'll eventually get to that. But, another thing, once we finish Sabriel, actually, let me compare it so you guys can see. There's Lyriel and Abhorsen, and Lyriel is like, I think has like an extra 100 pages or something like that. It's longer, of course, 700, and this is almost 5, so almost 200 pages more. Whew. And then Abhorsen is right about the same length, and then so yeah, we've got that to look forward to after we're done with Sabriel, and I'm going to put all them in a collection. think Sabriel sat in silence. It was a good alteration, and you nailed it. Thank you. Thank you, MP. I try to get some time in to kind of at least read some of this, or try to at least listen to. There's another person on YouTube that actually reads this. It used to be the official audiobook on there, but I guess it's been copywritten and someone had to remove it. Which was Tim Curry. He's the one that reads the official Sabriel book. But yeah, it was someone else, and I was listening to that, so I tried to at least listen to the chapters that I'm going to read, so I have some idea of where it's going. And then, like right before I streamed, about 4 o'clock, Angela, hello, welcome, thank you for being here. So yeah, I try to at least skim through it, and in my, try to say out loud at least the dialogue, because you'll notice I'll stumble on some of it, but the dialogue I try to go through and at least get that figured out somewhat about what I'm going to say. So I kind of know in advance, like, if Mogget is in a sarcastic sense, or I missed the one where Sabriel was trying not to laugh when the one sending pulled out something out of her something with its arm that looked like a snake wiggling through grass. It says, "What's that?" Sabriel asked, fighting back an urge to break out in hysterical laughter. So, like that, for example, those little things, trying to get them down so I know kind of what I'm saying. Yes, 4th of July weekend. Is it that 2 days? Yeah, 2 days away. Yeah. Happy 4th of July weekend, everybody. I hope you all are having a wonderful weekend, and thank you for being here. Well, I don't want to waste too much time. I want to jump right into this last chapter and just breeze on through, and then we can talk and wait for MP to get ready and everything. Happy birthday! Can we get oh, I didn't mean to click that. Now it's going to act dumb. No. Go back to message. Okay. We'll try that here. Okay. Let's do this here. Okay. We'll just do a party. Awesome. That is fantastic. So how was your birthday? Did you get anything wonderful? Are you having lots of good cake and all that good stuff? What has happened to my poor... I click one thing on the side and my stream just lags out. Because I accidentally clicked the smiley face on the side here, and I should have done it on my phone. I knew I should have done it on my phone. But I clicked it, and it's like... Computer just like slugs out. It's like, I don't want to do that. But my phone, yeah, that's fine. I can chat on my phone and click emotes and everything on there, no problem. Crazy. Technology's crazy. Here we go. Is everyone ready for chapter 10? Look how far we are. We're almost, well, not quite halfway, but we're getting there. I'd say by next Saturday, we'll definitely be at a halfway point. Possibly. Possibly. Okay. Let me get one more sip, just before I get started. Make sure this thing is done lagging. Yes, go for it. That is a birthday celebration. And that reminds me, I got something for you to look up. Um, Today is my birthday song by Spooky something. What is it called? What are they called? Where is it? Where is it? Hold on. Today's my birthday. It's a spooky song. Where is it? Nope. Today's song. Spooky something. Spooky Daily. Ah, there it is. Birthday song by Spooky Daily Pride. Let's write that down so you guys can write that down. It's one of my favorite birthday songs. I play it every year on my birthday just for the hell of it. Today's my birthday and the cake is on fire. Today's my birthday and the cake is on fire. Oh my goodness, I can't type. Up. Let's get these letters in the right order. Spooky Daily Pride birthday song. There you go. There you go. That's the song. That's the one to jam every year. Enjoy. Okay, let's hop into this last chapter now. No, not that. Not that. Go back to my Twitch stream chat. There you go. Okay. Here we go. Chapter 10. The arrival of the Floodwaters was heralded by great chunks of ice that came battering against the wooden bridge of grave dirt boxes, like storm-born icebergs ramming anchored ships, ice shattering, wood splintering, a regular drumming that would beat out a warning, announcing the great wave that followed the outriding ice. Dead hands and living slaves scurried back along the coffin bridge. The dead's shadowy bodies losing shape as they ran, so they became like long, thick worms of black crepe, squirming and sliding over rocks and boxes, throwing human slaves aside without mercy, despite to escape the destruction that came roaring down the river. Sabriel, watching from the tower, felt the people die, convulsively swallowing as she sensed their last breaths gurgling, sucking water instead of air. Some of them, at least 2 pairs, had deliberately thrown themselves into the river, choosing a final death rather than risk eternal bondage. Most had been knocked, pushed, or simply scared aside by the dead. The wave front of the flood came swiftly after the ice, shouting as it came, a higher, fiercer roar than the deep bellows of the waterfall. Sabriel heard it for several seconds before it rounded the last bend of the river. Then suddenly it was almost upon her. A huge vertical wall of water with chunks of ice on its crest like marble battlements, and all the debris of 400 miles swilling about in its muddy body. It looked enormous, far taller than the island's walls, taller even than the tower where Sabriel stared, shocked at the power she had unleashed, a power she had hardly dreamed possible when she summoned it a night before. It had been a simple enough summoning. Mogget had taken her to the cellar and then down a winding, narrow stair,
that grew colder and colder as they descended. Finally, they reached a strange grotto where icicles hung and Sabriel's breath blew clouds of white. But it was no longer cold, or perhaps so cold she no longer felt it. A block of pure blue-white ice stood upon a stone pedestal, both livid with charter marks strange and beautiful. Then, following Mogget's instruction, she'd simply placed her hand on the ice and said, "Abhorsen pays her respect to the Clare and requests the gift of water." That was all. They'd gone back up the stairs, and sending locked the cellar door behind them, and another brought Sabriel a nightshirt and a cup of hot chocolate. But that simple ceremony had summoned something that seemed totally out of control. Sabriel watched the wave racing towards them, trying to calm herself, but her breath raced in and out as quickly as her stomach flipped over. Just as the wave hit, she screamed and ducked under the telescope. The whole tower shook, stones screeching as they moved, and for a moment even the sound of the waterfall was lost in a crack that sounded as if the island had been leveled by the first shock of the wave. But after a few seconds, the floor stopped shaking, and the crashing of the flood subsided to a controlled roar, like a shouting drunk made aware of company. Sabriel hauled herself up the tripod and opened her eyes. The walls had held, and though now the wave was past, the river still raged, a mere handspan before below the island's defenses, and was almost up to the tunnel's doors on either bank. There was no sign of the stepping stones and the coffin bridge, the dead, or any people, just a wide, brown rushing torrent carrying debris of all descriptions. Trees, bushes, parts of buildings, livestock, chunks of ice. The flooded had claimed its tribute from every riverbank for hundreds of miles. Sabriel looked at this evidence of destruction and inwardly counted the number of villagers who had died on the grave boxes. Who knew how many other lives had been lost, our livelihoods threatened upstream. Part of her tries to rationalize her use of the flood, telling her that she had to do it in order to fight on against the dead. Another part said she had simply summoned the flood to save herself. Mogget had no time for such introspection, mourning, or pangs of responsibility. He left her watching, blank-eyed, for no more than a minute, before padding forward and delicately inserting his claws into Sabriel's slippered foot. "Ow! What did you—" "There's no time to waste sightseeing," Mogget said. "The sendings are readying the paper wing on the eastern wall, and your clothing and gear have been ready for at least half an hour." "I've got all—" Sabriel began. Then she remembered that her pack and skis lay at the bottom end of the entrance tunnel, probably as a pile of mordicant burned ash. "The sendings have got everything you'll need, and a few things you won't, knowing them. You can get dressed, pack up, and head off to Belisar." What is it? Hold on. Let me see. Hold on. Belisaire. I take it that you intend to go to Belazare? Yes, replied Sabriel shortly. She could detect a tone of smugness in Mogget's voice. Do you know how to get there? Sabriel was silent. Mogget already knew the answer was no, hence the smugness. Do you have a map? Sabriel shook her head, clenching her fist as she did so, resisting the urge to lean forward and spank Mogget, or perhaps give his tail a judicious tug. She had searched the study and asked several of the sendings, but the only map in the house seemed to be the star map in the tower. The map the map that Colonel Horace had told her about must still be with Abhorsen. With father, Sabriel thought, suddenly confused about their identities. If she was now Abhorsen, who was her father? Had he, too, once had a name that was lost in the responsibility of being Abhorsen? Everything that had seemed so certain and solid in her life a few days ago was crumbling. She didn't even know who she really was, and trouble seemed to beset her from all sides. Even a supposed servant of Abhorsen like Mogget seemed to provide more trouble than service. Do you have anything positive to say? Anything that might actually help? She snapped. Mogget yawned, showing his pink tongue that seemed to contain the very essence of scorn. Well, yes, of course. I know the way. So I'd better come with you. Come with me? Sabriel asked, genuinely surprised. She unclenched her fists, bent down, and scratched between the cat's ears, till he ducked away. Someone has to look after you, Mogget added. At least till you've grown into a real Abhorsen. Thank you, said Sabriel. I think. But I would still like a map. Since you know the country so well, would it be possible for you to I don't know, describe it, so I can make a sketch map or something? Mogget coughed, as if a hairball had suddenly lodged in his throat, and thrust his head back a little. You? Draw a sketch map? If you must have one, I think it would be better if I undertook the cartography myself. Come down to the study and put out an inkwell and paper. As long as I get a usable map, I don't care who draws it, Sabriel remarked, as she went backwards down the ladder. She tilted her head back to watch how Mogget came down, but there was only a open trap door. A sarcastic meow under her feet announced that Mogget had once again managed to get between rooms without visible means of support. Ink and paper, the cat reminded her, jumping up onto the dragon desk. The thick paper, smooth side up. Don't bother with the quill. Sabriel followed Mogget's instructions and then watched as he resigned condensation that rapidly changed to surprise as the cat crouched by the square of paper, his strange shadow falling on it like a dark cloak thrown across sand, pink tongue out in concentration. Mogget seemed to think for a moment. Then one bright ivory claw shot out from a white pad. He delicately inserted the claw into the inkwell and began to draw. First a rough outline, in swift, bold strokes. Penning in of the major geographical features. Then the delicate process of aiding important sites, each named in finely spidery writing. Last of all, Mogget marked Abhorson's house with a small illustration, before leaning back to admire his handiwork and lick the ink from his paw. Sabriel waited a few seconds to be sure he was done, then cast drying sand over the paper, her eyes trying to absorb every detail, intent on learning the physical face of the old kingdom. "You can look later," Mogget said after a few minutes, when his paw was clean. But Sabriel was still bent over the table, nose inches from the map. "We're in a hurry. You'd better go get dressed and for a start. You'd better go and get dressed for a start. Do try to be quick." "I will," Sabriel smiled, still looking at the map. "Thank you, Mogget." The Sending had laid out a great pile of clothes and equipment in Sabriel's room, and 4 of them were in the attendance to help her get everything on and organized. She had hardly stepped inside before they'd stripped her indoor dress and slippers off, and she'd only just managed to remove her own underclothes before the ghostly charter-traced hands tickled her sides. A few seconds later, she was suffering them anyway. As they pulled a thin, cotton-like undergarment over her head and a pair of baggy drawers up her legs. Next came a linen shirt, then a tunic of doeskin, and breeches of supple leather, reinforced with some sort of hard, segmented plates at thighs, knees, and shins, not to mention a heavily padded bottom, no doubt designed for riding. A brief respite followed, lulling Sabriel into thinking that might be it, but the Sendings had merely been arranging the next layer for immediate fitting. 2 of them pushed her arms into a long armored coat that buckled up at the sides, while the other 2 placed a pair of hobnailed boots and waited. The coat wasn't like anything Sabriel had ever worn before, including the mail hauberk she'd worn in fighting arts lessons at school. It was as long as the hauberk, with split skirts coming down to her knees and sleeves swallow-tailed at her wrists, but it seemed to be entirely made of tiny overlapping plates, much like a fish's scales. They weren't metal either, but some sort of a ceramic or even stone, much lighter than steel, but clearly very strong, as one Sending demonstrated by cutting it down with a dagger, striking sparks without leaving a scratch. Sabriel thought the boots completed the ensemble, but as the laces were done up by one pair of Sendings, the other pair were back in action. One raised what appeared to be a blue and silver striped turban, but Sabriel, pulling it down to just above her eyebrows, found it to be a cloth-wrapped helmet, made from the same material as the armor. The other Sendings waved out a gleaming, deep blue surcoat, dusted with embroidered silver keys that reflected the light in all directions. It waved to the coat to and fro for a moment, and then whipped it over Sabriel's head and adjusted the drape with a practiced motion. Sabriel ran her hand over the silken expanse and discreetly tried to rip it in one corner, but, for all its apparent fragility, it wouldn't tear. Last of all came sword belt and bell bandolier. The Sending brought them to her, but made no attempt to put them on. Sabriel adjusted them herself, carefully arranging bells and scabbard. feeling the familiar weight, bells across her breast, and sword balanced at her hip. She turned to the mirror and looked at her reflection, both pleased and troubled by what she saw. She looked competent, professional, a traveler who could look after herself. At the same time, she looked less like someone called Sabriel and more like the Abhorsen, capital letter and all. She would have looked longer, but the sendings tugged at her sleeve and directed her attention to the bed. A leather backpack lay open on it, and, as Sabriel watched, the sendings packed it with her remaining old clothes, including her father's oilskin, spare undergarments, tunic, and trousers, dried beef and biscuits, a water bottle, and several small leather pouches full of useful things, each of which were painstakingly opened and shown to her: telescope, sulfur matches, clockwork fire starter, medicinal herbs, fishing hooks and line, a sewing kit, and a host of other small essentials. The 3 books from the library and the map went into oilskin pouches and then into an outside pocket. Backpack on, Sabriel tried a few basic exercises and was relieved to find that her armor didn't restrict her too much, hardly at all, in fact, though the pack was not something she'd like to have on in a fight. She could even touch her toes, so she did, several times, before straightening up to thank the sendings. They were gone. Instead, there was Mogget, stalking mysteriously towards her from the middle of the room. "Well, I'm ready," Sabriel said. Mogget didn't answer, but sat at her feet and made a movement that looked very much like he was going to be sick. Sabriel recoiled, disgusted, then halted, as a small metallic object fell from Mogget's mouth and bounced on the floor. "Almost forgot," said Mogget. "You'll need this if I'm to come with you." "What is it?" asked Sabriel, bending down to pick up a ring, a small silver ring, with a ruby gripped between 2 silver claws that grew out of the band. "Old," replied Mogget. Son of a bitch. Enigmatically. I did it. You'll know if you need to use it. No, you'll know if you need to use it. Put it on." Sabriel looked at it closely, holding it between 2 fingers as she slanted it towards the light. It felt and looked quite ordinary. There were no charter marks on the stone or band. It seemed to have no emancipations or aura. She put it on. It felt cold as it slipped down her finger, then hot, and suddenly she was falling into infinity, into a void that had no end and no beginning. Everything was gone, all light, all substance. Then charter marks suddenly exploded all around her, and she felt gripped by them, halting her headlong fall into nothing, accelerating her back up, back into her body, back to the world of life and death. "Free magic," Sabriel said, looking down at the ring gleaming in her finger. "Free magic, connected to the charter? I don't understand." "You'll know if you need to use it," Mogget repeated, almost as if it were a lesson to be learned by rote. Then, in his normal voice, "Don't worry about it till then. Come, the paper ring is ready." Chapter 10's over. How much time we got? 10 minutes. Hot dog. We did it. We made it. I shouldn't have closed that. I should have put the marker in. Hey. Alright, so what do you all think, huh? How was it? I have a pet bod, no doubt, for writing, aka thick. Yes. My paper ring is ready. Okay, here we are. Chapter 11. No, I'm kidding. No, this is where we have to end here. So we have time to chit-chat. If anyone has any questions or just want to talk or anything. Hey, I'm back. I had to eat dinner with my fam. Well, yeah, we all have to eat. I think I'm going to eat as soon as I get off of here, because I'm hungry. I made chili last night, so I'll probably have that again. Let's see who's here. How many people we got? 2. 2 viewers. Okay. Well, thank you all for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're just tuning in and you don't know any of this story, please feel free to check under my videos. I have a collection folder with all my highlights of every chapter I've read so far. So feel free to check that out if you would like to get into this story. Because next week we're going to jump into, where are we? 11, chapter 11. 11, 12, 13. Probably do 3 more next week, assuming the chapter isn't too long. Because we did pretty good. We got away with 10 minutes still. Anybody here? Hello. 3 viewers. Hey, someone came back. There's Funny Imps. Hey. Let's see who else is here. I don't know anyone else. Nope. Yeah, I'm just being very cautious because, like I was saying earlier, my friend was that I met on here. Well, friend that I made on here. She was streaming a couple days ago, and some trolls got in there and started some shit, and I reported him and blocked him. That's all I could do. I wasn't a mod or anything, so I couldn't do anything about him or ban him. But yeah, they might come around here at some point, or maybe not. I don't know. I streamed that night for an hour when that happened. Right after she ended stream, I streamed for an hour. No one came by and said nothing to me. Yeah, I think mainly because they were blocked. But the one person was like, "Yeah, I've got you're with your 30-some followers, you whatever, da da da," just being toxic, and was like, "I have affiliate, I have a whole bunch of followers, and I'm part," or whatever he said, and I'm like, then why don't you go on your main account instead of on some burner account trolling people? And well, I'm not trolling. I'm being alright, whatever. It was fucking stupid, and I wouldn't be surprised if at some point someone comes around here and starts shit. So never know, but so far so good. Thank you all for being here. I have some good mods. Special 8, what's up? Yo, Special 8, I'm making you a mod too. Let me do that from my phone because I know what happens when I use my computer. User actions. Mod, yeah. You are my mod too. Yeah. You modded me, I modded you. That's just in case somebody comes in here while I'm reading or something, or doing whatever, and they just start a bunch of crap. And I can usually catch it myself, but just in case, yeah. Yeah, hammer him. Get that band hammer and get him out of here.
Thankfully, we haven't had any problems yet, knock on wood. We haven't had any problems, any trolls. And I've been streaming, what, 2-3 months now? Something like that. Oh, and speaking of which, I don't know if you caught that yet last night when your stream ended. Right as you were raiding J-Mac, I banned that one person with the SE, well, with the provocative name, the provocative username. They said something very disgusting at the very end of your stream, so I banned them. You know which one I'm talking about. You know the person that came in right at the end with the nasty name. Yeah, I banned them. I caught that right as we were leaving, and I jumped back to make sure it went through. We were like right in the process of raiding, and like I immediately closed out and jumped back over just to make sure that it did go through, and it did say that person was banned. So blonde. That's me, blonde. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, I'm not gonna have a bunch of crap. That crap. OG, double OG, what's up, brother? How you doing, my friend? How are you? Oh man, you catching me right at the end. I'm getting ready to raid in about 5 minutes. However, whenever MP is ready. Until then, we're just gonna hang out and chat. Hurt people, hurt people. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. Hurt people do hurt people. Yeah, and I also think being a female is also a big, like a target, because you've got so many guys out there that just after one thing. So they just go from person to person, wherever, oh, I got banned from this one, I'll go to this person. Oh, I got banned from that one, I'll go to that one. Oh, just spreading their toxicity, you know. Doing alright, dude. Just got home. Or chilling at home. Cool. Cool. Yeah, I just got done reading some more chapters of this. Double OG, I don't know if you've had a chance to catch up with this at all. But I made under my videos, I have a collection folder now. And I went through and I highlighted every chapter that I've read so far. So if anybody would like to go back and catch up on the story, feel free. After I end stream, get some food, I'm going to go through and I'm going to highlight these 3 chapters that I just read today. I might do that today. I might do that tomorrow, actually, because Money in the Bank is tonight. Money, 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 money. So I'm watching that. That's a definite. Yeah. Gotta watch my wrestling. Need my wrestling. I'm on light mode and you look invisible. Double OG, he is the man of mystery. No, that's my buddy, man. We've made some good friends on here, and I just want to thank y'all. Thank you all again so much for being good, decent humans. What? Wrestling fan? Yeah, you didn't know that? I thought we talked about this. I thought I DM'd you on Discord about wrestling one time. Yeah, man, a huge wrestling fan. Love AEW, love WWE. How about this, man? How about this? Hang on. Move all this shit. Move this and this. Okay. Unplug this. Yeah, I'm going to show you how big of a fan. Unplug this too. There you go. There. How's that for you? Let me zoom in on this side. We got The Rock, Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio, Stone Cold, another Stone Cold, Eddie Guerrero, Shawn Michaels, Macho Man, Starrcade, Saturday Night Main Event, Legends, Mid-Southwest, In Your House, 50 wrestlers, 50 greatest finishing moves, yeah, so on and so forth. Hell in a Cell, Triple H, Jeff and Matt Hardy, Road Warriors. Oh, the Road Warriors. We got to give them a shout out. Oh, what a rush. Rest in peace, Hulk. Kane, Undertaker, and Andre the Giant. So yeah, there you go. Those were mine, and they were my aunt's. Some of them were my aunt's DVDs. She loved those. She loved wrestling too. Yeah, I got in it when I was little. My mom, let me plug this back in. My mom and my great aunt went and saw Sting and Lex Luger and a bunch of the other ones back in probably 1989, 1990, something like that. And they saw him live, and been a fan ever since. I didn't go, but they took pictures, and yeah, I was just like, wow. I was a little kid, and I even had MP and I were talking about it the other day. I even had one of the Hulk Hogan, like, great big stuffed dolls, and you would punch it in the stomach, and it would go like, "Oh, brother," and make all kinds of noises. I think what were they called, Bashing Buddies or something like that? I can't remember. I think that's what MP said. But yeah, yeah. So I even had that. I would suplex them, and fucking fun. Oh, good times, good times. Let's see, what is it? 7 p.m. Okay, 7 p.m. Almost time. Oh, also, everyone, please feel free to follow everybody. We all stream here. MP streams, Special H streams, Dolo G streams. If Funny Imps is here, Funny Imp streams. JMac streams. So yeah, everybody follow everybody, because it really helps us all out. It's a great platform that we have here. I just caught up to Money MLW. Really love Jacob Fatu. What is that? What is MLW? Is that oh, Major League Wrestling? Can't believe he isn't in WWE. Caught up on AEW as well. Dude, I'm even in a wrestling group. Cool. That's nice. You mean like on Discord or on Twitch? Because there's actually a few people that actually stream, like Aleister Black and Matt Hardy. He streams on Twitch, right here on Twitch. He's the Usos' cousin. Oh, okay. Yeah, the Usos have a big family, don't they? Because there's also what's his name on NXT, the Solo Sikoa, Sikoa, something like that. Solo is his name. YouTube, cool. Yeah, I do watch Botchamania. I love Botchamania. That's some perfect shit. He actually had to remake it, so now it's Botchamania again. He had to remake his YouTube channel because AEW had shut them down. But he had gone through all the processes to make sure to let them know that this is what he does, and he was able to remake his account, or make a new account called Botchamania again, and he's been adding new stuff on there, and that the last one was really funny. Oh, the Anoa? I know what you're talking about. Cesario, yes. What's his name? Hold on. Cardio. It's like cardio, but it's Claudio. That's what it is. Claudio. It's like Cesaro and cardio. We're on the intro screen. Okay. Hey everybody. We're good to go. We're about to raid. Thank you all so much for being here. Claudio Castioli. Yeah, that's what it is. Yep. Yeah, buddy, we could talk about that all day. So we got to chat about that sometime. But yeah, here we go. We're gonna raid MP, and we're gonna start our next step of Saturday raid party. And so stick around. As soon as I go to my ending scene, I'm going to raid. And everyone have a great weekend, 4th of July weekend. Be safe. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to each other. I love you all. Peace out. We are gone. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.